Welcome to another episode of our video series of the mechanics of human cognition. It's great to be back with you. You know, every single day we make what feels like countless decisions. But have you ever really stopped to think about what's actually driving them? What's going on behind the scenes? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into today. So let's start with a really fundamental question. It sounds simple, but I want you to really think about it. Are you really in control of your actions? The answer, as you'll see, is a lot more complicated and honestly a lot more interesting than a simple yes or no. Because, when we actually look at the science of how our minds work, something pretty surprising comes to light. It turns out that for a huge chunk of our day, we're not actively deciding anything. We're just running on autopilot. To put it another way, most of what we do isn't really acting, it's reacting. Think about a leaf getting blown around by the wind. It's moving for sure, but it has zero agency, right? It's just an object being pushed around by whatever forces are out there. And honestly, if you look around, a lot of human life kind of works the same way. People just reacting to their environment, getting pushed and pulled by circumstances, and mistaking all that motion for actually living. So to really get a handle on this, we need to draw a very sharp line between two concepts. And this distinction is absolutely critical for understanding what it means to have agency. We're talking about the difference between simple movement and true behavior. Okay, let's break this down. On one hand, you've got movement, or in Turkish, hareket. This is the passive stuff. It's reactive. It doesn't need a purpose, it just happens. In this state, you are the object. You're that leaf in the wind. But then, on the other side, you have behavior, or davranish. Now this is totally different. It's active, it's intentional, it's driven by a goal. When you're exhibiting behavior, you are the agent. You're not just being blown by the wind, you're the one navigating it. And what's fascinating is that this isn't just some abstract psychological concept. Astronomers, when they're searching for signs of life out in the cosmos, they use this exact same filter. If they see a planet or an asteroid following a perfectly predictable path, one that follows all the laws of physics, that's just movement. But what if something suddenly changes course for no obvious physical reason? That unexpected deviation? Well, that's behavior, and that could be a sign of intelligence at work. So the search for life is really a search for behavior over mere movement. So what is it inside our own heads that's driving these two different ways of operating? Well, the answer is in our cognitive architecture. It's all about the mind's hidden templates. Every single thing we do, whether it's a knee-jerk reaction or a carefully planned action, is run by something called a mental model. You can think of it like the software or the operating system running in the background of your mind. It's this internal blueprint that determines how you'll respond to pretty much any situation you encounter, and a lot of the time, it's running completely unconsciously. Now, these models aren't simple little programs. No, they're more like a complex cocktail. You've got ingredients from your basic biology, things like hunger or the fight or flight response. You've got a heavy dose of culture and societal norms. Then you mix in your entire personal history, all your unique experiences, everything you've ever learned, all your beliefs, and a whole bunch of emotional patterns you've developed over a lifetime. All of that gets shaken together to create the unique software that you run on every day. But here, and this is so important, here is the real game changer. While it's true we can't operate outside of these models, we are not their prisoners. The incredible power of human consciousness is that we can become aware of them. We can actually see the software while it's running. And once you have that awareness, you get a choice. You can decide which program to run. You can even start to debug and rewrite the code yourself. Okay, so this is all great in theory, but how do we actually do it? How do we go from being a leaf in the wind to being the navigator? How do we turn that automatic movement into a conscious, intentional behavior? Well, there's a pretty clear process for it. It starts with awareness. You have to first spot a reactive pattern that's causing you problems. Maybe you always snap at a certain person, or you always procrastinate on a specific task. Second, analysis. You have to hit the pause button and ask, okay, wait, what's the mental model here? What's the belief, the fear, the assumption that's making me do this on autopilot? Third, intention. This is where you consciously design a new response, one that's actually in line with who you want to be and what you want to achieve. And finally, and this is key, practice. You have to do the new thing over and over again until that intentional behavior becomes your new, refined default. All right, so let's zoom out for a second. What's the big picture here? What's the ultimate implication of understanding this difference between simply moving through life and truly behaving in it?
It really comes down to this. You could say that the entire project of human development, of personal growth, is this very conscious effort. It's the work of turning a life of passive movement, a life run by your programming and your circumstances, into a life of intentional behavior, a life guided by your own conscious choices and your own sense of purpose.
So, I'll leave you with a question to mull over. What is one automatic movement in your life, one reactive pattern that you could decide to consciously turn into a true behavior starting tomorrow? Really think about it, because answering that question might just be the first step toward reclaiming your agency. Thanks so much for joining us.